Hamas thanks Canada and has adopted our foreign policy. This is the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system, never going home. I'm in love.
So this came out yesterday and it hasn't even been on CBC yet because CBC is the mouthpiece of the Liberal government. But it turns out that Hamas came out and thanked Canada for calling for a ceasefire and has adopted our appalling foreign policy. So terror group hardens won't release hostages until there is an unconditional ceasefire, which Canada voted for at the UN. Thank you so much, Trudeau, you stupid son of a... Oh. So Canada gets thanked by terrorists for being supportive allies, then it's safe to say our foreign policy is at an all-time low. I could not agree more. Trudeau and his team are just totally out of their depth when it comes to handling terrorist groups. Trudeau's father would give him a swift kick in the ass because Pierre actually, when he had to face the FLQ, he came down hard on them. But here we got his little golden boy who has no clue what to do. So it started with Ghazi Hamid, the senior Hamas leader who celebrated the October 7th attacks against Israel and promised to carry them out again and again, singled out Canada, Australia, and New Zealand for praise in a recent video. He said he welcomed a joint statement from the three countries on December 12th that called for the urgent international efforts towards a sustainable ceasefire in the Hamas-Israeli war. In other words, you're willing to treat with terrorists. So Canada abandoned its long-standing policy of supporting Israel by voting for the resolution of the General Assembly that called for a humanitarian ceasefire. Why? Because the Liberals were going to lose the funding of all their Muslim donors in Canada. The resolution called for the release of hostages, but did not tie the two issues together. Neither did the resolution mention Hamas, since making the terrorists seem responsible in any way was too much for some countries. Jesus, the hypocrisy of it all. In his video, Hamad was delighted with Canada. He welcomed these developments and considered them in the right direction towards isolating the fascist Israeli government globally and ending the longest ever occupation in our modern time. Canada fell right into their trap. Canada's new best friend is the man who only weeks after the October 7th slaughter called for it to be repeated until Israel was annihilated. Thank you, Trudeau. You're such a wonderful human being. I cannot believe people fell for this moron. I didn't, but other people did. He said on Lebanese TV that Israel is a country that has no place in our land. We must remove that country because it constitutes a security, military, and political catastrophe to the Arab and Islamic nation and must be finished. Political Islam. We must teach Israel a lesson, and we will do this again and again. So they're calling for more attacks. That's never going to stop until you get rid of Hamas. And he showered Canada with praise because of the naive and reckless foreign policy that has been espoused by Trudeau and Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly. Instead of offering leadership, they've been feckless. Instead of courageous, they've been spineless. And instead of being principled, they've been self-serving and political. Right. Again, they only did it because they were losing Muslim funding. They need the Muslim votes to stay in power because the Muslim votes are going to go to the NDP. They need to appease their caucus and their voting bloc, and the Muslim majority in Canada have a clear anti-Israeli bias. It appears that Trudeau and Joly were willing to accept the word of the terrorists if it blackened Israel's name. Like when in October they responded quickly after Hamas blamed Israel for a rocket attack on the hospital in Gaza City, which reported killing almost 500 people, when it actually was a failed rocket fired from Hamas. And Trudeau has been accepting the word of Hamas. He's been watching CNN. Now we hear about this body count that's being thrown from Gaza by the Hamas-run sources. They're calling it at least 20,000 people. They're counting their own militants as part of those 20,000. They're counting armed combatants in their civilian count. So you can't trust the sources. These two idiots, Trudeau and Joly, had any common sense. They would have waited until the evidence was clear and they had more information. But no, they went and yipped in front of everyone in their desire to condemn Israel and play to the audience. And the Globe and Mail asked bluntly, if the ceasefire had changed because you're losing Muslim support and donors in Canada. And Joly replied, I've answered that question. I think the fact that you mentioned the humanitarian pause that happened was important. No, which isn't an answer. So they're playing with words. They're not really giving you an answer. And this is why. And they don't even know how they're going to create a ceasefire. Israel should just ignore them. The only one that Israel has to really worry about in any ceasefire scenario is the United States. And they don't back down to terrorists. So going on to foreign policy, Joly said Hamas are terrorists. Hey, good for her. But for a ceasefire to be sustainable, Hamas must release all hostages and stop using Palestinian civilians as human shields, lay down its arms. They have no future in Gaza. So that right away says, no, they're not going to do that. But again, this means that Hamas, in order to do all these things as part of a ceasefire, when it should be demanded they do all these things before any truce being contemplated, they should be surrendering. Hamas rejected a 7-day truce, which allowed for the release of more hostages and Palestinian prisoners. Because what happens when you have no more hostages? You're fucked. You're screwed. The Israelis have been doing pretty damn good at destroying all the Hamas infrastructure. Hamas said that we'll only discuss the captives and conclude prisoner exchange agreements after a complete cessation of Israeli aggression and a ceasefire. So Canada is befriended by terrorists, but our foreign policy now aligns with theirs. By supporting an irresponsible ceasefire, we have emboldened the terrorists to adopt that very stance. Thank you, Trudeau, for your wonderful intellect. We should have stayed. Actually, honestly, we should have stayed out of it. We should have condemned Hamas, said they gotta be removed, and stayed clear of it. Which is again what I'm saying with the trucker convoy. The trucker convoys were protesting government policy that affected their livelihood. Here we have pro-Hamas protesters in the streets of Canada protesting against Israel in our country to affect our foreign policy. That's a totally different thing. And Trudeau allowed to have it because he's losing their support. They're not going to vote for you next time, buddy. You've missed the boat. And now we're offering visas to people in Gaza with ties to Canada. Why would I want them? A lot of them probably have them. Who knows how many have Hamas ties? Ties to Hamas or any other terrorist organization that's over there. Why are we bringing more people that hate Jewish people over here? Let the other Muslim countries have them. Or if they do come here, you better damn well make sure that they go on public record as condemning Hamas and telling all the atrocities by Hamas. And saying Canada should stay out of it. But no, it's a way to get more votes. And Trudeau's just pissing on more Canadians in order to pander to that crowd. Unfortunately, we probably won't see the end of Trudeau for another year and a half. It depends on how long the NDP will continue to support him. The NDP are getting stronger with every mistake Trudeau makes. But they won't be enough to knock down the Conservatives. Trudeau, the best thing Trudeau can do right now, I don't know how he can backtrack this one. This makes our House Speaker bringing in a Ukrainian World War II vet who fought for the Nazis look like a picnic compared to this. Hamas is a neo-Nazi fascist regime. They are dictators. They don't share power with anyone. But it goes to show that our foreign policy has been a joke ever since Trudeau came aboard. And he is totally out of his depth. But any Canadians out there listening, please let me know what you guys think of this one. If Canada, how Canada can fix this, or what can we realistically do? Leave comments in the comment section, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system, never going home. I'm in love.